Hello there. Are you a natural English speaker in that you've been born in an English speaking country? Have you ever considered teaching? Would you like some way to earn some extra income? Do you have time? Would you like to live in a foreign country and teach English in a foreign country? Everything's possible as long as you can teach English. If you want to know more and about my story, please keep watching. Thank you. Hello everyone, it's Sandy from Talk of Thailand, and today's video, this was initiated by some comments I received either last night or early this morning from someone who watched a recent video. They'll know who they are, and they happened to ask me how my teaching was going. Well, actually, over the last 2 or 3 months, many people have asked me about my teaching, actually, and I have done a couple of videos before on how I got into teaching and how it was going then, and several people expressed interest in maybe following my path and going into it. If you're watching this video and you were one of these people, please drop me a line or drop something in the comments below and let me know how you've got on. And also, please let me know with some of the problems that have happened recently because of COVID and other aspects, and how that's affected teaching, how you've dealt with them. Has it been positive, or have you had to delay starting teaching? Please just let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear. So, how is my teaching going? Well, let's start with, why did I get into teaching in the first place? Well then, I think it started around Christmas last year, actually, 2020, when one or two people said to me that they had schools in the area around Pattaya that were looking for English teachers, and would I be interested? Well, I never really considered it, to be truthful, because one, I had primarily that teachers employed in the schools here had to have a university degree. Well, I'm an engineer and I've come up the engineering route, and I've never been to university, although I've been to college and I've got diplomas in engineering, etc. But I never really gave teaching a second thought. And it wasn't until about a third or a fourth person asked me, and this was around May of 2021, that I started thinking, okay, let me just look into this, because my daughter had started school then, and I thought, well, maybe that school is looking for an English teacher, and I wouldn't mind helping them out if they needed it. So I started looking into it online, and I done a fair bit of research. And I realized that the first thing I should really do is get some sort of teaching certificate. So I applied to an organization that I saw online. If you're interested in knowing which organization I've done this with, please put it in the comments, and I'll get back to you and I'll give you the necessary information. But I applied to this organization online, and the course, which included an exam for the certificate, wasn't expensive, actually. It was very, very, very reasonable. And it was the 120-hour TOEFL course. So they said you could complete it in 120 hours. And it was a teaching English for foreign learners, or teaching users of foreign languages. There's two titles for it, actually, but it was teaching English for foreigners, basically. So I registered for this course at the beginning of June, and immediately, once I paid my thing, because it's all online, the course started. Well, I worked on the course for 2 days, and then I had a day off, and then on the fourth day, I took the exam. Now, I honestly believe I could have worked through it in the 2 days if I'd really put my mind to it, and there's nothing to stop you doing that. there is certain tips that I would recommend if you're doing this, and a way to really help you get through that without a lot of problems. If you want to know about that, please let me know in the comments, and I'll get back to you and tell you how it's done and what you should look out for. Anyway, I took this, and I took this exam on the 4th day in the morning, and I passed the exam with 95% or something like that, maybe even a bit higher than that, I think. But anyway, I got my certificate, and it's an accredited certificate, so it's accepted worldwide. And then I started looking at, okay, where can I teach? Now then, if you want to teach, and as I said at the beginning, the idea was, will I teach in a school or will I teach online? Because when I've been doing the research, I saw that there was an interesting aspect of being able to teach English online, and I could do that also. The fascination about teaching it online was, let me explain the difference. If I worked for a school, obviously I would be salaried. I'd be on a monthly salary, but I'd have to teach the curriculum that they designated to me. I would have to teach it in the way they said I had to teach it. And my hours and everything would be controlled by the school. By teaching online, I can basically dictate what hours I want to work, when I want to work, how I want to work, in that aspect. So the school aspect became less attractive to me, and the various online facilities, online platforms, let's call them, they became much more interesting, because I didn't really want to be tied up full time. I also note that the majority of good schools here, they do require teachers to have some sort of university degree, preferably in teaching. So I see the majority of these people that are teaching teaching English to foreigners in schools, they're mainly young people that are out after finishing their university degrees, and they're wanting to get some experience in life, and they've come to places like here in Thailand, or China is a big one. China's a very, very big one. Vietnam, Cambodia, all these countries, they're probably everywhere in the world, Africa, wherever they want to go, because teaching is a universal thing that we can do if we, in my case, it's my first language, of course, and there is opportunities open everywhere in the world for people that want to teach English. I've even found here in Thailand, although I didn't have a university degree, as long as I had this teaching certificate, then yes, I could get employed. But there was other obstacles to get over. One, I'd have to get a work permit, whether I paid for that myself and done all the necessary paperwork and jumping through hoops to get that, or whether the school done it for me, etc. It was all aspects that really is this what I want? You know, as many people know, I'm 72 years old. And do I want to go into another profession at my age? Not really. That's not really what I was really aiming at. But I'm certainly interested in doing something positive. And if I could do that online by teaching online, that was of interest. So I quickly dispelled the idea of schools, and I started looking about online, where I could teach online. And there's many, many platforms, and there's even schools online as well that you can join, for particularly Chinese schools and other schools. One Russian school contacted me if I'd be interested in teaching for them. There is schools online, but I like the platform idea. Now, the difference is that on a platform, this is a company or a person that set up an online platform where you can register as a teacher, and they're trying to recruit both teachers and students. And their business model is to have the teachers teaching the students, and they bar for running the finances of the students' booking and paying the teacher. They more or less let the teacher dictate what he wants to, he or she wants to do, and what hours they want to work, and what they want to charge even. So there's many of these type of platforms coming up that are online, and are also, I see many people trying to start them up as a side business, but I'm a bit wary of some of them. They don't seem so clever. But certainly the first one I applied for was Preply, a company called Preply. It had a good reputation. I looked at it online. Many students had studied there, etc. They gave it a thumbs up, and I later found out why they were giving it such a big thumbs up. But I applied to them, and thankfully, you know, they come back to me very quick, within 48 hours, I think. And as a consequence, within a week of getting my certificate, I already had 4 or 5 people studying with me here online. And it was good. It was good. It was the experience I needed. These people were coming from various areas of the world. I think that my first student actually came from Sri Lanka. And then I had a couple from Europe, actually, after that, from Greece and Turkey, actually. And then it started spreading out from there. And very quickly, I was getting a lot of students. I'd say within about 3-4 weeks, I had a lot of students coming on. But then I started to fall out of love with Preply. And I'll tell you why, because it's important you know why. It was all financial, because two aspects specifically. Preply charged 33% commission on whatever you charge your student for a lesson. So if you charge him £20 an hour, then they will, or $20 an hour, they will reduce that by 33%. They will keep 33% of that. In addition, every student that comes to you, their very first lesson is treated as a trial lesson. So it's like the teacher getting to know the student and the student getting to know the teacher. And Preply take 100% of the fee for the first lesson. The whole lot. You don't get a penny, not 1 cent for the first lesson with any students. And that hurt a little bit, you know, because it really came home to me one Sunday afternoon, and I had 4 new students booked in. Now then, 4 new students. And they were in quite close order, I think, starting early afternoon. But all in all, I spent 6 hours that Sunday getting the lessons ready for them and getting everything done in preparation. And then I spent time talking to each of these new students. And I finished at 9 o'clock on Sunday night. And I sat back, and I think I had a cold beer, and I thought about the day. And I was actually a little bit dismal about it, actually, because I realized that I just spent the most important day of the week with my family, sitting, talking to these potential students, and I didn't make a red cent, not an absolute penny from that day's work, and that really dismayed me, actually. So it was then I started looking for alternatives, and I eventually wound up with the one I work mostly with now, Italki, and I'll tell you what I think of them in a moment. But let me just go back to Preply just for one moment, because I do have to give them credit, because although it was expensive credit, in a way it was worth it to me, because it gave me grounding in teaching people in English, something I'd never done before, and I got to meet many different types of people there, and it gave me the confidence and experience to know that I could do the job, I could do it, and that was something that had been nagging at the back of my mind. Another thing that, when it comes to the finance aspect, people were giving me just before I started changing. People were booking groups of lessons, 10 lessons, and they got a 10% discount. Well, that 10% discount reduced my earnings to even more. At that time, when I joined Preply, I was charging $8 an hour just to attract people to come and try the lessons with me and hopefully book some more lessons. So $8, by the time that they took their commission out of it, then I was getting just over $5 an hour, which is not great, but it was $5 an hour for learning how to teach. And that's important, and I would certainly not detract from anybody that wants to try Preply and get the experience with Preply. In fact, I'd actually recommend it. It's a good way to go if you want to learn how to teach online. So Preply, yes, but I can assure anyone that goes there, I think that in very quick time, you get a bit depressed about what you're actually having to pay to get that experience, and probably look at moving on as I did. Well, since I joined Italki, things have progressed just as well. In the start, I was getting the first good thing was that my rate went up. I started charging, I think, about $15 an hour with them. And they could have half-hour lessons as well for $10 or $11 or something like that. Many people took that option. And trial lessons were also, they were down about $7 or $8. But with Italki, if you had a trial lesson with a prospective student, you got the 100% what they paid for a trial lesson. That went to the teacher. Additionally, Italki only take 15% only, but it's still only 15% of whatever I charge a student, Italki takes from me. Now, just before I left Preply, there was a Russian lady I'd been teaching her son, and I'd given him maybe 10, 12 lessons or something like that. And all of a sudden, she booked 80 lessons, 8 groups of 10 lessons, and paid for them and everything. And I thought, oh my God, you know, this is 80 hours I've got to work for $5 an hour, which is what I ended up with on Preply, and less than just under $5 actually, because she got the discounts as well. So that demoralized me intensely, and I felt morally obligated to carry on and doing it. But what happened is I started running Preply alongside Italki as well. So I was doing some Italki and I was doing some Preply, but I was trying to avoid taking bookings from Preply then to work with Italki. But sometimes I'd be forced into it, people that had booked lessons, etc. And I can't tell you how much it hurts to turn away somebody that's offering you $15 for a teaching lesson, and you turn them away to go and give a $5 lesson to someone else. And, you know, I'm not very bright, but I quickly realized I could not carry on with that. So I've left Preply alone. I haven't cancelled my my aspect with them. I could still go back and teach with them, but I don't. All my booking slots are turned off. I haven't had any complaints from Preply. They still send me newsletters and things like that, and prospective courses that they might be running, etc., to help teachers along. The only negative feedback I got was from some Russian lady that was complaining that she had to cancel all her lessons with me because she couldn't find anywhere where she could book some time with me. Thank God. Anyway, that was virtually the end of Preply. As I say, it's still in the background should I ever want to, but I can't see that happening unless it is change their charges and the way they operate greatly. I see many students online, many teachers online complaining about exactly the same factor. So that was the end of that aspect of my teaching with Preply, and I then concentrated on Italki. Now, by that time, I would say I'd had enough experience to start realizing what I was best at. Never ever, with Preply or with Italki, have I wanted to teach children. I am not a children teacher. I don't want to start at the very basics and with fluffy toys and cartoon characters and start teaching children to learn English. I think possibly even the sight of me would frighten the life out of them. So better I leave that sort of field to the pretty young teachers or the young lads who are good at that and can coach the children along. Instead, I concentrated on three particular aspects, which was exam preparation, people that wanted to take specific exams like IELTS, which is the International English Level Testing System, TOEFL, TOEIC, and some other exams. That was one key aspect. Another aspect was business English, which proves very popular also. People who have a relatively good level of English, but are getting involved or wanting to improve their career prospects by being able to use much more formal types of English and know the way that business organizations operate and the formalities behind it, etc. And maybe a higher level of vocabularies as well, and a higher level degree of fluency. So that proved very well. Now then, conversational skills. Yes, I do conversational skills, but it's something I offer, but I don't do it too often, unless someone's already quite well advanced in the English language, but similar to the business English, they weren't brought up to be able to use more formal type English and know the formalities that surround various aspects of doing business and etc. So that's the three aspects I concentrated with an iTalk at. And then what happened is we started seeing some problems in teaching. Now then, the big problem, of course, was the pandemic that came along. That was a big problem. Many schools started closing down. So all these people that were out from UK, USA, Australia, etc., they all had their little niches in teaching in Thailand, Vietnam, China, etc., as I've said before. They were suddenly out of work. They had no jobs because when the schools closed down, the schools weren't willing to pay for expats to come in, to wait for the schools to open again, because nobody knew how long this piece of string was going to last. You know, it was a big tragedy, and a lot of teachers lost their jobs. And of course, the first thing they started doing was turning to teaching online, the same as I'm doing. So that gave, of course, more teachers coming on. The second problem, Vietnam. Now, Vietnam caused a big problem, and I don't know the reason they done it, but they suddenly started holding back on visa applications and refusing visas big style, not only for people that were teaching there, living there, or even expats that had retired there and settled down there. They could only get holiday visas. And then when the pandemic came along, Vietnam stopped issuing many of these. They just turned them down. So people that actually set down the roots there were getting to have to pull up the roots and move out. And a lot of the young teachers, etc., and people that had gone there to try and earn a second living, they were out. They were gone. So that brought another glut of teachers, because it was a very common place. It was a very desirable place for the younger elements to go teaching that were looking for somewhere exotic to live, undergraduates, etc. And they were then out of a job. So incidentally, if you were one of these people that experienced it and turned to online teaching, I'd like to know how you got on with that as well, because I'd love to know if you see what you see in the future if you were involved in it at that time when all this turned out. But there was another major fly in the ointment to appear, which happened not so long ago, actually, 3-4 months, maybe slightly longer, maybe slightly less, I don't know. And that came from China. Now, China closed all non-governmental schools that were providing additional teaching for Chinese students. And they said that they weren't allowed to do this. The reason that they gave, I'm led to believe, is that they didn't want the more financially well-off families sending their children to additional education and creating an imbalance in their abilities between students. So they decided the best way was just put everybody on a level playing field, and that was it. That didn't quite work well because a lot of students, I've got a lot of online students now actually that are Chinese, but they're older students and many of them already in business, computer technologies, etc., that are just wanting to improve their higher level education, higher level English speaking conversation, and a few that are studying for exams as well. So there is still students online from China, and I'm no doubt there's families that are trying to get additional learning for their youths who are at school and trying to get them an advantage as the Chinese government are wanting to stop. So there is a possibility there. But what the Chinese government did was that a lot of teachers came out of China after that, and they came into Thailand and Vietnam. No, not Vietnam. Well, they maybe went to Vietnam some, but Thailand and some other countries around about Singapore, etc. And they've registered online, and they're now looking for online students as well. I know some have done okay, and I know others have come, but it just wasn't for them. They'd learned a mode of teaching that didn't suit their online aspect, and they didn't like maybe the varied hours we get, because I can get lessons at 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and so it's late night, and you've got to be up and ready and prepared to give a good lesson. So it didn't really agree with everybody that was losing their jobs in the schools, because the schools obviously gave them a guaranteed income, and they knew when they started, when they finished, and they could plan all their lives around that. But anyway, so it comes down to now actually, what do you want to be? Do you want to be a teacher in a school, or do you want to be like a digital nomad? Well, I would classify myself as a digital nomad actually, because I could provide the lessons anywhere. In general, I only teach from home. I give students advice from wherever I am. If I get a student that needs to know something quickly or wants advice about something, all my students get the ability to contact me virtually at any time. Obviously not in the middle of the night when I'm sleeping, but at any other time, they can send me a request, and we can even meet up on Skype, Zoom, Google Meet, or whatever, or just by email. And I can advise them and point them in the right direction, because I find that my big goal here is that I want to provide the ability for my students to achieve their goals and ambitions, and that's important to me. And once they start learning with me, I want to encourage them to do it as quickly as possible, because the more often you learn, and you learn the various aspects of English, the better it's retained, and the quicker you start using it properly. And that's important. People that think they can do it in 1 hour a week, it's impossible, really, to be truthful, because you may not need a lesson every day, but if you want to learn good English, you need to be learning it every day, whether you're reading, listening to something, or speaking to yourself even. It's good. This is what you've got to be doing. You've got to be dedicated to learn English, or any language, I believe, but I'm only concerned with the English at the moment. So that's an important aspect. So how has these problems affected myself? Well, being that I do this more as a hobby, and it's a good hobby, I enjoy doing it, I enjoy speaking to these people, and I'm not reliant upon the money from it, and I like to work the hours I like to work, and I like to have the time off. I like to take time off, so this all works for me okay. Yes, I have seen a large drop in students applying for lessons with me. I still get regularly students want to register with me, etc. But I did identify the problem, and then I sat down for a while, and I wanted to analyze exactly where this is going, and what I want to do, and what is in the future for me. I still like doing the YouTube videos when I can, but obviously that's been severely hampered by the pandemic as well. So what I looked at, okay, the students that I want to teach and how I could get access to just them. And I came up with a formula, and it's a very positive way that I've done it. I identified who I wanted to teach and what I wanted to teach, and then how I could get in touch with people that wanted this type of teaching and wanted to know the information that I could give them. And I started working on how I built that up. And I've got to a good stage in that now, and I'm getting private students with me now that were not from any of the platforms. I'm also getting returning students also from that I've taught before and coming back for to get further help. So I've now made an aside, and I don't rely on iTalki or Preply or anybody to get students for me. And I get more than enough business from them. In fact, I invariably, many times I've got to turn students away, actually, because being a one-man band is not easy. You know, I've got to plan my time out to maximize everything, my time with my family, time for my rest, and time for each of my students. We're all paying me good money to give them the advice and teaching that they require. So I'm limited to the number of students I can take at any one time. And there are many times I'm getting requests from students that I can't accept. And I do have a short waiting list for people that are planning for something in the future, and they can wait 2 or 3 weeks until I can start them on the course that they require. Now, if you're interested in how I've done this, and you do have an interest in teaching like this, or even maybe you're interested in learning, improving your English ability and achieving some specific goals you may have in mind. Once again, get in contact with me. Leave a comment below, and I'll come back to you. Let me know what you're interested in, and I'll come back to you. And I am planning on doing another video very soon about what I've done to get access to students that don't have to find me on iTalki or any of the other platforms. I'm planning to do that video in the very near future, in the next couple of days, actually. So if you're interested, I'm going to restrict access to that video because not everybody needs to know, and I don't want to build up too competition for myself. But it's a very effective way, and I think for the right people, it would be the way to go. But I would ask, if you want to access to that video, then please subscribe to my channel and drop me a line below, and I'll make sure you get access to that video. So that's really what I wanted to tell you about it. Teaching is still going okay for me, and I hopefully now in Thailand here. My daughter went back to school this morning. That's a big, big positive aspect for me. That gives me more of the ability to go out maybe and start looking for more interesting YouTube videos instead of rambling on like this. Maybe you're bored to tears. You're bored to tears already listening to me, but I'd like to get out and make some more videos and play with my drone. I enjoy flying my drone. But also it gives me more time to make educational videos as well, because I make educational videos for my students. I do them in various aspects that they're learning, and that all helps as well. So thank you for watching. All your comments are welcome, and the most important thing, of course, is everybody takes care and tries to stay away from this horrible virus. I would strongly recommend to everybody to get their vaccines. I know a lot of people don't want vaccines, but I think even a dose of COVID and not dying is much better than the other options. So please, if you think about getting a vaccine if you've not had it. Bye for now. Thanks for watching.